Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now, before we do begin, let me go ahead and give a brief little review. In the last part, we had a lot of things happening. Now, Deku, Marcy, and Chloe, they were preparing an assault on Searchlight Airport. And while they were spending their time making plans and getting things done there, members of their vault discovered the truth about what's going on down there. They learned about the Enclave, and the Overseers have enacted full-time war protocol. This was a protocol developed in case they found life on the surface during their exploration. The vault, it has an abundance of resources that was stockpiled down here. It was always meant to be for expansion and development. But if they needed to, they could turn their attention towards a war effort. It would be hard. It would be prolonged. It would take a lot of those resources, but it can be managed. They had 10 power armor sets they've developed over the years. The T-80 model. They also were able to build an additional 5 power armor sets in power relatively to a T-45 set of power armor. Now, the Enclave have a confirmed 24 sets of power armor that Chloe has been able to see. And they don't have anti-air equipment. So far, they have a vertibird, 2 suits of power armor, a bag full of mini nukes, and a robot army. In addition to a gun they thought was useless. But apparently, it's able to temporarily shut down power armor. And that is the biggest piece of good news they've gotten in a long time. Deku was able to have a brief chat with his father, and the man knows that his son is not in a very good mental state. Deku doesn't like what fighting does to him. He doesn't like what the surface has done to him. Kaiser has said it himself, and even coming from the words of that hypocrite, knowing that they're right hurts. People who have come to the surface, if they've lived in a vault, will become unrecognizable to themselves in order to survive. And it's the truth. Deku himself doesn't want to admit it, but it's right. And right now, they had an attack going on. The vertibird was flying over the airport, and the B-29 or B-59 bomber is currently en route with its payloads. The Scorch Beast, she's already dropped off Chloe to go in with the ground forces. This place, it is a cage. The Enclave have built concrete walls to protect them, and they have a defensive line at their front door. Unfortunately, someone already kicked in their front door. So, they're going to go ahead and fulfill the rest of that journey. Someone already took down the front door, and now it's their turn to burn down the fucking house. Now, Deku, he just fired the Fat Man. And he does it to watch his 8 mini nukes to go flying through the air and whistling death. And when they did a crash down into the ground, people, they've already died for cover, trying to figure out what to do, how exactly to handle everything. And Deku, he does it a wait. Right now, him going to bend down to the bag and go to grab another part of the MIRV system. Right now, he does going to put the rack of mini nukes directly onto his launcher. Him setting up the other one as he does go to look out. And right now, the place, it does going to fire up towards him as Deku does going to aim out. Him going to use his VAT system and go to turn, looking over towards where the vertebrates are all currently sitting. People have already started sprinting towards them. Some have pulled out their weapons and are currently firing in place. And Marcy, she has come flying overhead as Deku does look up. Him turning his attention back towards the building and going to fire, feeling the kick and hearing the whistle of the minis fly through the air. And they are on target. They do go to separate from their systems and fly forwards. Right now, him watch the explosive path go to land. And right now the quartermaster does it fire off a missile launcher. Deku turning his head and hearing the roaring scream of the Scourge Beast. As he does it, turns attention back towards the front entrance of their defenses. And he does get to hear the explosions. He does get to hear a lot. And right now he's going to look at the massive building set at the end of the runway. The massive building that he once ran out of, that he got free of. Right now, that place holds the key to their home. They gotta get out of there. That was a thought once. Now they've got to get back in. And Deku, he does a turn, grabbing one of the big loaded mini nukes. Him gonna reload it and look down, seeing a cluster of 5 Enclave members as a turn and aim. Him launching the mini nuke, and he does it to fly through the air, crashing down to the ground. And Deku himself does it a turn, grabbing the side of the aircraft as it itself does a field of force begin to hit it with a shockwave. And right now he does it a turn. The quartermaster herself trying to steady herself and turning back to Deku. And there is members of their vaults. They do to feel the ground begin to somewhat shift. They do to feel the surface shake. And that was their cue. The Overseer does get to stand there with a gun. Right now, him holding an automatic rifle as he does begin the process of opening the vault door. Him flipping the safety mechanism up as he has a stare at that big red button. And he does a turn to the members of his vault. Aware that buying a little bit of time for the attack to fully go into swing is a good option. However, he doesn't want to join them too late. Buy them a minute. That should be enough time to cause more chaos. Let them begin to focus more attention that way. That way, whoever gets the alert about the vault door opening isn't prepared for it. A false desert. And he does go to hover his hand over that red button. Him turning to the squads in power armor suits and forming them. Right now, this is going to be a very big event. He wants those with the improvised explosives to step forwards. Be there to make sure things can go the way they're expecting it to go. The Enclave are currently busy, and while he does not wish this, he will act as bait by using some of these grenades as well. The moment the Enclave does get to reveal their falsity to them, he wants them all to begin to rush outside. It is going to be that simple. Today is a day that can cause many of them to die, but today is a day their ancestors have prepared them for. Decades worth of training, years worth of training, cultivated in everyone who does stand here today. Him raising his fist and slamming it down. And the moment the alarm does begin to blare, he does get a turn. Right now, him putting on his riot gear mask. And he does stand there in a suit of combat armor. Him going to rack his weapon and get ready. Since it's going to be a battle no one will forget. If he dies here today, then hell. He'll just wake up and figure it out tomorrow. If he has to keep fighting, he'll keep fighting until hell freezes over. And then they'll just fight on the goddamned ice. This thought rushing through his mind. Him with his bayonet fixed to his weapon. And he does a step out into the fake sunlight. As right now there currently is Deku. Deku, he does go to reload. Him turning his attention towards the front of the base and trying to see where Chloe might be. And Chloe, she currently doesn't have a dozen Securitrons rush into the airport properly. Them beginning to make their way into the runway as there is where the B-29 bomber does begin to release its payload. Right now the massive tower being struck as it does get a shake heavily. And the person inside, they are blown away by a missile strike. Right now, Deku going to turn and go to tap onto the quartermaster's armor. Her turning her head over her shoulder as there is where Deku does get to turn to another person, nodding his head at them and going to turn. Handing off the massive Fat Man launcher before he does go to step out into open air. And right now he does begin to plummet. Before he does a crash trucking onto the ground and smash into it. Right now his servos going to whine with the strain he just put them through. But whenever he does go to fully stand back up, he does go to grab his rifle. Right now, him joining the attack on the ground. And Deku, he does begin to try and make his way towards that building. Him firing at people in power armor suits. And when they do get to see someone in T-60, they are quite surprised. That's a model they haven't seen much of in Vegas. And Deku, he does this in a hollow point directly into the chest piece of someone's armor. Him racking his brush gun as he's going to fire again. Stepping forwards, firing again, stepping forwards, firing again, and watching as they do go to fall forwards onto their knee. And he does go to rush forwards again. Right now him turning to the person and going to fire. And they do go to be struck in the chest as Deku does get to watch the weld give. And this is good. Him making his way forwards and bringing a hand up. Right now, him grabbing his pistol and ripping off their helmet, blasting them directly in the skull and turning to the person. Who, when they do go to try and turn their attention upwards, Deku does go to grab their helmet and rip it off their head. Right now, him going to turn and smash it down into their skull. And they do to fall forwards into the ground. Deku bringing his mechanical foot over their head and stomping down with a crunch. And he does get a turn. John's here. He has to be. And right now, he does get to approach the building. Most of the Enclave troops outside, they are focused on 4 different things. The robot army that just punched its way through their front fucking door, an old school plane that's somehow flying overhead and dropping bombs on them, one of their fucking experiments, and then one of their own stolen vertibirds, which someone is fucking firing a Fat Man out of. So yeah, they're kind of a little preoccupied looking in different places. And Deku, he does take this opportunity, bum rushing the building as he does go to charge towards the metal door in front of him. And the Enclave, they have a problem. They have a really big problem. Right now, there is the fact that the Vault Dwellers open their door, while they kind of are trying to deal with an attack. And this does tell them one thing. They have a war on 2 fronts. Some of them need to get out of here and run, while others, they need to stand and try to fight in order to make sure this place can still stand. And currently there is where one of the members of the security team does a turn their head hearing a sound. And we do cut to Deku, who currently does a smash through the metal door of the cargo area. And whenever he does do so, he does get a turn. Right now, him throwing out a cluster of grenades. And whenever he does get to do so, he does go to watch a number of people in armor go to look shocked. Some are in combat armor. Some are in power armor. And whenever he does toss out the bundle of makeshift plasma grenades, they do go to stare at him. Some begin to raise their weapons and others, they do get to be blown away by the attack. The grenades do get to cover a decent area in front of Deku. However, that's directly in front of him. To his left and right are multiple people in different forms of readiness. And one does a fire a plasma weapon at Deku. Him going to bring up his weapon and begin firing at them. Him taking the shot of the plasma weapon to his armor as he does a fire at them. Him aiming at their head as there is where he does go to turn. Right now, someone rushing into the room as they do to lead in some Securitrons. Chloe roaring out about what's going on, firing one of her plasma weapons directly at another person in power armor. And they do go to rush towards her with a weapon up. But whenever they do to freeze in place, there is where they are struck by a barrage of missiles that do to send their armor flying backwards, smashing and sliding against the ground. And she does a turn. Right now, her dual-wielding a weapon with the pulse gun. And Deku, he does a turn to the bag on his back. Him pulling out an assault rifle and beginning to spray and pray. People, they do start to turn their attention towards the Securitrons. Meanwhile, there is where he does a rush forwards and begin to try and get in close. People are hiding behind cover and trying to put barriers between themselves. He does go to feel bullets ricocheting and hitting into his armor. Meanwhile, he does a rush around a cargo container as someone in a power armor suit, they do go to turn. Right now, them bring up their plasma weapon and rushing at Deku, crashing him into the cargo container behind him. Before, he does a bring his hands up and grab onto their own armor. Right now, him trying to push them back as their suits, they do begin to have their servos whirl. And Deku, he does get them off of him. However, the person, they do go to smash him directly in the face with their weapon. And he does go to stumble backwards. Him going to step backwards into the left. Them being carried forward as he goes to stop, turn, and throw a punch towards him that does try to strike him in the face. And Deku, he does just go to duck down. Right now, him doing so and coming forwards, grabbing into their chest plate and throwing them backwards against the cargo container. And the two, when they do get a crash into it, the man does a dent into the wall. Deku putting a lot more force into it than this man realized, as he does bring his hand back and begin striking him across the Exo One's face. And when this does happen, Deku, he does go to turn. Right now, him going to reach down and pull his blade. Him taking Chance's knife and stabbing it through the eye of his armor and into his head. And when the man does bring a hand up to try and fight back, Deku, he does go to grab onto the man's arms. Him going to lean forwards and headbutt the knife further into his brain to kill the man. And when that does happen, Deku does a step back. Him bringing a hand up and pulling the blade free. And whenever a man is around the corner in combat armor, he does go to hold up a weapon and expect an ally to be in front of him when he saw power armor. His mind taking a second as Deku does go to turn. Him rushing the man and grabbing him. Immediately breaking his sternum as he does go to throw him directly into the wall and stab into him. And the man, he is caught off guard. Him roaring out in pain before Deku does crush his jugular. He does a turn, trying to think about what he can do. A loud explosion drawing his attention. And he does a turn coming back to the area. The Securitrons are beginning to fall. However, they are still making their push. Mr. House, he sent quite a lot of them with them. And if he does need to, he will send backup. It may put a small dent in his plans, but it is something he is willing to do. And that, it's good. It's helpful. It means they have a proper chance. It means they have the chance to see their home again. And he knows that watches Chloe right now, her left shoulder, it does have the bare frame. The metal torn and destroyed. And whenever Deku does get a turn, he does go to see someone with a missile launcher. And turning and bending down, grabbing a laser rifle and holding it up to fire at the man. And the man, he does go to be struck by a barrage of the automatic laser weapon. Him alarmed as he has a duck back behind cover. Him throwing a plasma grenade over towards Deku, who does go to take a shot from a high-powered rifle. It striking into him and ripping into his chest piece. Him going to stagger backwards before he does have to prepare himself for the plasma grenade. It going off and beginning to affect his armor. And he can feel things definitely heating up inside his suit. Before he does a turn and go to look at one of the Securitrons. 3 of them rushing forwards and going to fire directly into their cover. Them being struck by a massive barrage that does give them the opportunity to charge. And when he does it to do so, the man, he does that turn raising up his weapon. Him not expecting Deku to reach down and bend the barrel, before ripping it from his grasp and breaking one of his fingers. Him holding it up and smashing it down into him like a club, turning to the other person and rushing at them. Him going to stampede over them. And Chloe does come over. Right now, Deku holding up his right and left arm. And he does begin to see the damage his armor is sustaining. The metal's already beginning to bend and warp. His chest piece has an exposed hole that's a weak point. He can still do this. Right now, them trying to head deeper into the facility. He knows roughly the place where they came out from, where things started to heat up, where things started to get different. And when they do go to try and make their way through that door, there's where someone does come rushing through it and going to grab into Deku. Him being lifted up into the air and crashed down, sliding against the ground. Right now, the person in the other side of power armor being battered away as they do to drop their weapons and smash into a second-story cargo container. Right now, them going to crash into it and land. Before the giant super mutant, he does begin to grow further in size. And Deku, he does going to roll himself over and get to his feet. Before John does begin to talk about it. He was expecting quite a lot. But who is he? Deku, looking up through his broken visor as John, does a squint. And he does go to grin, laughing. Really? Him being struck by a barrage of missiles. Before he does it a turn and go to chuck his giant super sledge at a Securitron. Going to take out one of the Securitrons as it is flying backwards, crashing into the ground. Him staring at the other 2 as he does it a run. Him hiding behind one of the cargo containers as he does go to fully change. And Deku, he himself is well aware of what's going on. Him turning and looking at the Securitron with the super sledge that is nearly as large as he is. And this isn't good. That hammer's bigger, larger, 3 times that of a regular one. But it's got weight, and he's got a super suit. Him rushing forwards and grabbing the hammer. Him feeling his servos begin to fight and whirl as he's pulled upwards and over his shoulder. Before he does go rushing forwards and John, he does come to move out. Him going to throw his weight against the container and force it away from him. It sliding across the ground as it does go crashing into one of the Securitrons and go to knock it over. Right now, it's going to slide across the ground as it is trying to get back up. It turning its attention as John is going to rush towards it. And Deku, he did try to evade the container sliding across the ground. But as for John, he went rushing towards him to try and meet him halfway. Him throwing the hammer down and slamming it upwards into his bottom jaw. John, alarmed and staggering backwards as Deku, he does a spin, trying to use momentum to swing the massive hammer. And John, he does take a strike to the chest as he does go to stagger backwards just a little bit, reaching down and punching out towards Deku. Deku, taking the blow as his helmet, does smash on his face, and he does go sliding backwards. Right now, him trying to think. John is too strong. He's still growing in size. He's got a few ideas, though some he's definitely not going to like. And he does begin to change. John watching Deku as he does his stand back up. The suit beginning to expand. Two large horns do begin to cut through the top of the helmet. And then he does go to watch as the creature, it does begin to burst as the metal does emit a horrible sound. The frame beginning to break under the strain as Deku, he does get to tear his way out of this tin can. And he does go to watch the pieces fall forwards and backwards. Right now, him with the power armor helmet covering his horns. And he does a glare at John, as he does try and pull more and more from his wild side. He knows that there's a monster hiding in him. John has one, but he has one too. His is strong. He's the leader of his pack. He's leading them into danger. He's done a lot. He's been the guide. He's been the one who will throw himself at the enemy first to protect his pack. He is the alpha. And he does try to pull more on his wild side. Pull more into this. Embrace it fully. And he does feel himself pushing up against a wall. Right now, his mutations taking him up to 18 foot tall. And he does fully roar out at John. And John does still stare down at Deku. Him at 25 feet tall and grinning like a madman. As Deku does go to rush him. Meanwhile, there was Chloe. The moment Deku took John's attention away, she knew she had to make her way further into the facility. Deku already has a bit of a plan. Try to lead John out into the sun. Then, when he can, drop that tower on him. Or blast him in the face with a goddamn mini nuke. It's quite simple. Take him outside and get him killed that way. They're not sure if John can be saved. He doesn't seem to want to be saved. And she left her power armor suit. Right now, she has the fusion core in hand. And she did begin to try and sneak her way further and further into the facility. She's hoping to find the cages where the people who were stored last year are. If she can, then things can go well for her. She's hoping to find them and release them. Meet up with members of their vault, and then plan things out from there. Go on a hunt. Hunt down anyone she can. And she does try to trace back the path they took last year. No, not last year. Years ago. That feels like a lifetime ago. It's been a long, long time. But she does go to follow it back, going down the hallway, down the corridor, down the stairs, and avoiding the elevator. Eventually, she's going to find herself in a control room. It's there. People are in cages. And when the man does get to sit there, him anxiously monitoring the people inside the cages, a knife is put up to his throat. And she does get to tell him, hands up now. Easy. I'm not a combatant. I don't believe you. Her pulling his weapon free and tossing it behind her. Expressing. Now, where is his key? Hey, I don't have it. You're lying. I know you are. Hand over the key and things can go well. Or do the security guards have it? They're armed and it's a state of emergency. I know for a fact you might have one. Or do I have to slit your throat and search your pockets? Okay, listen. I'm going to reach down and her slitting his throat. And when the man does frantically bring his hands up to his neck, she does go to bring her knife up and stab down into his heart. Right now, leaving the switchblade there as she does a step around him and the man does not see anybody. Her beginning to look through his pockets and turning back to the consoles. She found a key, and that's all she needed. Right now, she's going to find her way back to their vault. And that's the problem she's not hoping to encounter. It's going to be big. Today is a day for many things. And the people they're going to find, yeah, they're step 1 of step 2 through 10. So hopefully she can move on to another step. But while that's going on, let's get back to Deku. Deku, him and John are still trying to throw around power in the warehouse. Monster versus monster. Man versus man. And the two, they're still frantically trying to duke it out, smashing each other into cargo containers. Deku, he rushed in. He tried to use his agility and dexterity in order to outmaneuver John. John is all strength. And while he does have some speed, when he's stationary, he's a problem. Right now, Deku, he has a duck under a strike. The man is sent to his right. Him trying to swing out to his left as Deku, he does go to turn. His claws raking against the man's right leg. And whenever he does go to begin to maneuver himself around, he has come onto the left side. Him slashing his claws against his left knee, turning and going to throw up a punch into his stomach. Before he does to come up as John does a swing back around. Deku going to try to back away, but going to lean into the blow. Him being sent flying across the room, crashing containers, and rolling into the ground. Where he's like, get back up, and John does begin to charge. Deku beginning to back up more before he does go to turn. Him rushing away and around one of the containers. John trying to crash into it as Deku, he does go to evade. Right now, him going to turn and grab one of them, beginning to pull it up and up and up. And it does have something inside. He's not sure what, but it doesn't feel that heavy. It's still hard to lift. But John gonna rush towards Deku. And Deku, he does go to throw out the container as John, he does go to be hit by it and try to charge him still. Reaching over it as Deku does go to leap onto it and then go to leap up. Him going to go airborne and crashing down onto John's face. Him slicing into it and taking out one of his eyes. John going to bring up his left arm and grab out towards Deku. Him grabbing Deku by his right shoulder and arm and beginning to squeeze down and breaking. Deku roaring out as John does it a hold on and turn, swinging Deku and crashing him into another container. Him turning and trying to slam him into the ground. But when something does that kick him directly in the nose hard enough to break it, he does it to finally let go, feeling blood pool into his mouth and blocking his senses. Right now, Deku getting back to his feet and roaring out again, telling John, he thinks he's the strongest. He's weak. He's nothing. He is alone. He doesn't have the vaults. He's army. And John does a roar out. The army is strong. The Enclave is strong. He won't fall for tricks. Rushing at Deku. And Deku does it to watch the blinded super mutant come towards him. Him turning and going to rush out of the building. John crashing through it and coming outside into the open. And the moment he does, Marcy, she does go to turn seeing that. Right now, her going to arc her way down and directly towards him. Her going to grab onto him as John is alarmed. Him not sure what this is. The wind blowing around him as Marcy does bite directly into his face and he does gonna reach out. Him grabbing her by her arms as she does gonna immediately fly backwards and begin to pull him forwards. Him surprised as he does just squeeze down. Right now her roaring out in pain as the sound is gonna make John let go. Him alarmed as Marcy, she does keep flapping her wings, staying airborne, looking down at John and blasting him with a sonic attack. It roaring into him as he does feel the pain. And Deku, he does go to begin to look at John, rushing towards him as there is a sound that does a cut through the air after it was fired. And Deku does get to hear it. Right now, crashing into John. And it does gonna blow him sky high. Right now, Deku being sent crashing backwards and feeling the force nearly deafen him. Marcy going to crash down onto the ground as she is sprawled on her back. She does feel her arms partially broken. Though Deku, he does get to roll onto his side and begin to blink things away. Blink things awake. And right now, he doesn't realize it, but there is a savage grin spread across his face. The sound emanating from his throat can only be described as a chuckle. He's shell-shocked. He can't hear a thing and his body's trembling. But he's never felt this alive. He's never felt this much fear. He's never felt this much power rush through him. He's been challenged, but never as a beast this way. Never this much. Something exists that can rival him, that might be more powerful than him. He has to dominate it, push it down, rip its goddamn throat out, eat it, bleed it dry, make sure to tear it to shreds, and prove he can be dominant. Prove he is the one in charge. He is not a slave. Nothing can make him subservient to another again. And he does a rush towards John, as John, he does try to get back up onto his feet. The pain of the mini nuke blasting by him broke bones and tore muscle. And right now he does have exposed wounds on his body. Deku crashing into him. And John, he is forced to the ground as Deku does it to bring up his claws, roaring out into him, going to slash into his body, cutting into him. John bringing up his one good arm and smashing Deku. Him going to nearly fall off of John as he has a throw on his left arm and go to bring up his left arm. Him pulling it backwards and crashing him in the face. Pulling back, crashing him again. Pulling back, crashing him again. Pulling back, crashing him again. Pulling back, and then going to have John sink his teeth forwards and begin to try and gnaw out at Deku. Deku, he does go to try and slip backwards. John throwing up his arms and battering Deku over 15 feet away. Him crashing to the ground as he does go to climb back to his feet. And John does go to unsteadily get back up. Marcy going to get back up herself and watch the encounter. Before John, he does stand against Deku, back facing away as she does an inhale. And the moment that is going to happen, John does going to turn. Right now, him going to try to move, but taking the blast directly to his back. Him falling forwards as Deku does go to rush him. John tries to get out of the way. But whenever Deku does collide into him, he does go to roar out. Right now, him going to try and bite directly into Deku, but going to fail. He's quickly beginning to lose strength. His armor is getting destroyed. And right now, Marcy does go to let up on the attack as Deku. He does a turn. Him throwing John to the ground and going to slowly get back to full size. Crashing down onto him and holding him to the ground. Leaning forwards and going to roar out at him. He feels the power. He feels everything. He's proven it. With the members of his pack, they can make him kneel. They can make sure he understands who has the power here. Which one of them in this scenario is the alpha. And Deku, he does go to hear some noise. Him quickly glancing up and staring at some people who take him a second to register. People who are in armor. People who he recognizes. And Chloe, she does a turn holding her hands up in front of them. And they all look terrified, fearful. Men who have weapons drawn, aimed directly at them. And it does mean quite a bit. John reaching up and going to break one of Deku's legs. Deku, the moment he does feel that, he does a roar out in pain and bend down, sinking his teeth directly into John's throat as he does begin to pull. He does begin to feel John bleed into his mouth. And that taste, it's nearly intoxicating. It's something he does remember, something he does recognize. It's fresh. It's something he can feel. It's something warm. It's not gross. It's not vile. It's not tainted. It's pure. Something delicious. And he does continue to rip into John. John continuing to try and pull on Deku's leg. Him trying to keep him from killing him. But Deku, he is nearly pulled off of John when someone, they do come crashing forwards onto his face. And John, he is hit by Chloe, who does hold a super sledge. Chloe going to pull back the hammer as John, he does going to throw his hand up. Right now, the massive behemoth's arm crashing into her and sending her flying backwards. Him turning and throwing his weight directly onto Deku. And Deku does find himself flying off of John and crashing into the runway ground. Him landing in some of the sand as John, he does begin to lean over Deku, pushing his body weight on him as Deku does go to try and push him off with his legs. And the massive, powerful creature, it does begin to start trying to crush Deku. The talons in his feet are digging into flesh. And Deku, he can definitely feel his muscles screaming out about the weight trying to destroy his legs. But John, he does to pull his hands back, him blasting them down directly at Deku. He's already lost quite a lot of power from the explosion he suffered. His body is bleeding. His left side is weakened. And from what he can tell, he's either full of adrenaline or trying to make a final stand. Him punching down with his right fist, him slamming down with his left. And Deku, he does feel the blows batter into him before John does go to lean back and Deku's legs do to slide upwards. Him going to grab Deku by his legs and pull him up into the air. Deku letting his body leave the ground as John does to slam him down. And Deku, he does feel the force slamming into his body. John picking him up and going to slam him again. And whenever Chloe does try to rush forwards, there is where someone does a fire directly into John's back with a missile launcher. And he does get a turn. Him staring at people who do go to fly around in a vertibird. Right now, them going to get ready and aiming at him again. Someone stopping the person who just fired. And there is where Deku, he does get a turn. Right now, him going to turn with his broken leg and kick out with his good one. Him slicing into John's wrist and cutting it sideways. John beginning to let go as Deku does a scurry backwards out of his grip. Right now, John, however, does get a turn with his weakened arm. Him slamming it directly down into Deku's back and pulling back his good arm, slamming it down onto Deku's back as he does a roar out in pain and John does to grab him again. This time by his tail. And when this does going to happen, there is where Marcy does come flying in. Right now, her roaring out with a sonic scream directly into the man's chest. Him going to take the blow and bring his hands up to try and defend himself from it. Him, however, sliding backwards across the runway. Marcy increasing the intensity as it is a barrel into him, ripping away flesh, ripping into skin. And John, he does go to stagger backwards as Deku, he does go to turn. Him attempting to get back to his feet, however, his arms are the only thing that want to lift him up. He can feel a lot of pain in his lower back, and he can't feel his legs. Right now, him attempting to stand up, but his legs aren't responding. And he does get a turn back to John, who right now does get to stand there and taking on damage. He's still on his goddamn feet. However, there is where people do begin to surround John. Him going to sit there. The man's already run out of steam. Deku can see that. And John, he finally does begin to shrink back down. And when he does get to do so, he does begin to start falling forwards, collapsing. Right now, that is good. Deku does get to stare on. Right now, that's the only thing he can really do. He does begin to start trying to move towards John. It might be some sort of trick. It might be some form of deception. But they've piled on way too much damage on the man for him to be able to stand. That's what he's hoping. And right now, there is where someone, they do come rushing over. Chloe bending forwards and asking him if he's alright. Deku staring at the bruises covering her arms as he does begin to shrink back down. And when he does go to do so, he does go to turn and go to try and readjust himself, sitting on his butt as he does look down at his legs, using his left arm and talking about it. Him holding it out to her as she does to get him back to his feet. However, Deku, the moment he does try to wiggle his toes, he does it to tell her. He thinks his back is broken. And someone does come rushing over. A man in a suit of power armor going to help Deku. And people, they do currently begin to surround John, along with a number of Securitrons ready to blow him to Kingdom Come. And the Overseers, they do begin to start approaching, as someone does get to talk about it. They need a report on what the situation is now. And he does get a turn, seeing Deku and Chloe as he's a turn back to Marcy. And Marcy, she already has someone injecting a stim pack directly into her, as she does begin to approach and make her way over to Deku, waving the man away as he does get a stare at her. And Deku does get a turn to the man, him informing his father to step away. She can help him. Her stepping forwards and injecting him with a super stim pack. And Deku, the moment he does to feel this healing rush through his body, he can already feel a lot of things healing. The strange blurriness in his vision, the strange concussion he has, the strange fog, along with this pain he has in his skull and, well, his entire body. He feels like someone just shook his skeleton really badly. And he does find that he does begin to have the strength in his legs return. Deku standing on his own power for a second as he does go to look up at the Overseer, expressing, with these two still with him, Sir, they have taken the base. All enemy combatants they've encountered are down. And, well, that is John. I see that. Are we certain that he's down? For now, sir. But we need to continue this. Him going to step forwards. Him going out in the open and grabbing the super sledge. Some people staring at Deku, who does begin to try and regrow in size. And when they do to see Deku begin to start adapting again, changing again, he does to grow just a little bit, bringing the hammer over his head and crashing it down into John's head. Right now, him pulling it back and thinking about what to do. John's already unconscious, heavily injured, and, well, no. He is a threat, and they eliminate threats. People watching Deku crash down the hammer again, crash it down again, and then crash it down again. And this time, he does get a turn, throwing it down to the ground and turning back to everybody. Some do get to see him suck in a breath, and others, they do just get to watch on in a little bit of horror about what he just did. Him beginning to express to the Securitrons. Right now, there's only one way in and out of this airport. He wants them to do a thorough search around the area in the outside of the dome they do go to find themselves in. Search for any remaining Enclave personnel who might have escaped. Along with that, set up a patrol in order to make sure the airport is currently safe at the moment. He'll turn things over to the overseer and give a debriefing. Right now, there is a lot to currently go over, and he just wants a shower and food, along with getting himself treated. And people, they do get to stare at Deku. Right now, him going to stand there. He looks weak. And whenever people do come over, they do go to give him a salute, before expressing about how they'll be taking him back to the medbay for his examinations, along with many of the other wounded, in order to help them. And Deku, he is let off under his own power. But as things do begin to somewhat cool down, die down, and he does feel less of his adrenaline spiking, he does begin to feel less power. The moment he's brought back inside the building, he does go to feel all of it hit. And there is where people do go to lead him back into the vault. And everyone, they do go to stare on. When they get to the medbay, people are being treated for ballistic injuries, burns, and some are even trying to console each other about the people they've lost today. And there is currently Deku. When Deku was brought in, it was something people have never seen before. I mean, people in their vault have scars from certain injuries, but those are small, those are minor. The bruises and damages that do happen, yeah, that stuff can happen with training knives or fights, but very rarely does someone ever need stitches, unless there's been some sort of failure or accidents in their vault. As for Deku's wounds, yeah. He suffered broken limbs. He suffered damage. And whenever they do go to finally get a proper examination on him, his arms are still forming bruises. Partially healed, but still intense bruises. Blood's pooled in the areas, and they're almost purple. They're a lighter shade, but with some more stim packs, he should be alright. But his injuries aren't the worst thing they've seen. It's the scars. After he was treated, he went to the mess hall and they got food. He did talk to a lot of other people, and he did even turn over his Pip-Boy in order for them to upload the information he had. Deku, Marcy, and Chloe, they were then seen stuffing their faces full of food. People were surprised, and it was just an alarming thing. I mean, watching a man intensely wolf down half of a container of potato salad, switch to the Blamco mac and cheese, go to the cram, and then just start piling a plate full of steaks. He's never seen it. But then there's the other two. They were wolfing down food with the same type of feral intensity this man was. And people, they just stared at them. They faced the most intense battle their vault's ever seen. A true fight. People have killed today. And the overseers, they do want to debrief these people about the situation. Mia got to see her brother from a distance. But the way he looked, dirty, disheveled, and war-torn, that's the only way she can describe him. She heard other people talking about whenever they brought him in. He looks better than what they described. But she still hasn't gotten a proper conversation with him. And that's the one thing she does want right now. Currently, her going to wait until later. Deku, he's already made a request that Marcy and Chloe have also made. They wish to be transferred to another private residence. It will take some time, it may take a few days for this request to go through. There are more important things currently happening. And Deku, whenever Mia does come walking into the room, she does get to see her mother. Her sitting on one of the chairs in the living room, staring at the vault's TV as she does look back and forth between it and Deku, who does just get to stare at the radio. The radio is playing an old broadcast of the Unstoppables, and he just hasn't stopped staring at it. He's looking around the room like he's a stranger. And whenever his gaze is to fall on her, she has this blink and step backwards, staring at his eyes, which aren't the same green color she remembers. His eyes are mutated. He has horns on his head, a scars, and a gaze that she finds uncomfortable. Her finding herself somewhat taking a half step backwards, staring at her brother. And he does get a turn, just staring back at the radio. Izuku, I said before, it's good to have you home. Mia, you've come to see your brother? I have. It's good to see you again, Izuku. Hey, Mia. You alright? Oh, yeah, I'm fine. I've just got a lot going through my head, and I'm trying to get it all sorted out. I've heard the overseers are doing a lot. And, well, I've heard about everything. Were you going to meet with them again tomorrow? Yeah, I have a meeting with them. Listen, I'm gonna turn in for the night. Him making his way over to his room and stepping inside, turning around and locking the door. Stepping back and turning. His room. He's actually standing back in his own room. Going to sit down and bring up his left hand. And he does it a freeze, realizing he isn't wearing a Pip-Boy. He just does get to stare at that. Before he does give his audio log out into the air. And just staring around. He's back in his room. Sitting backwards on his bed, leaning against the wall and letting his feet dangle. Wondering about everything. His guns are still over at medical. His supplies, and, well, he's in a vault suit. He's completed his mission. And Deku, he does try to get some sleep. The night, it's restless. He does find sleep evasive. He does find the room silent. It's not something he does like. He expected something to try and come bursting through the door. He heard a knock at some point, but he ignored it. He finally had time to be alone with his thoughts. And he cried. Tears of joy, tears of anger, tears of anguish. He wanted to help John. But who knows what would have happened if he let him live. That's not something he's sure he wants to know. Right now, him reporting into the overseers the next morning. And the 5 men in front of him, they are sitting there. Currently, him looking around at them. Before one does begin to express, they're still waiting on the other two to get here. But them all going to stand and snap a salute, expressing. Right now, they do want to say that he's done a good job and good work in what he's been doing. And they couldn't have done any better themselves. They're not sure what the world does look like out there, but they're hoping that he can be their guide, their helper. Along with that, there is some information that the three are going to be told that currently is strange. Deku nodding his head and not saying a word. And they are staring particularly hard at Deku. Him aware that that's the overseer in charge of the branch he has had his life center around. The Marines. And whenever Marcy and Chloe do come stepping in, their own vault suits with some modifications, he does a turn staring. Chloe ripped her suit into a 2-piece set. A shirt and pants that do give her a little bit of midriff and movement. Along with the fact that it does provide some space for her tail. Marcy, she's cut out some slits for her wings. And Deku himself, he already knows he's gonna go sleeveless. When he gets his knife back, he's definitely going to go sleeveless. Though he's already tried cutting out some room for his tail. But that already was a problem with his claws. It's not a clean cut, but it worked for right now. And the overseers, they do go to fall silent. For one does it stand, and they do just stare at an old man in a lab coat. As all of you do get to know, I am Overseer Matthews of the Medical Division. I am in charge of quite a number of things, and we have found a lot of information that you three are going to be pertinent to know. Your mutations are unexpected to us. We found a lot of medical data that does describe what has been done to you and members of our vaults. Along with that, we have found something unexpected. How unexpected? The ramifications of it can change our vault society entirely. More than the Enclave being a thing for us? Yes. We took prisoners, and we've interrogated them. Some of higher authority. Some of the foot soldiers who they know much about the base. Some of the standard operations and the machine maintenance personnel. We found a cryo facility. A cryo facility? Yes, as I've said. The people there are still alive, as far as we can tell. They've been cryogenically frozen and preserved. They're members of our vaults. Their names exist in our records. The room falling silent. Before he does get a hold of his hand and express with his middle finger, holding it up with his thumb currently in the middle of his hand. Number 2. Fact of the matter is, members of the expedition teams from prior years, we found them in cages, alive in different sections of the base. Our team from last year, who was the expedition after yours, they are still alive. Their experimentation has been rather peculiar. Yes, it has been. A voice echoing in their minds. And Deku, does a turn looking around, as the Overseer does express. Yes, that is a particular thing they're wanting to figure out. It appears one of the members of the team has the ability to look into someone's mind. It's been quite beneficial and is currently being used to gather more information, which does bring them to the third subject. Jonathan Curtis, the man who Izuku believed to crush the skull of yesterday. He is still alive. You can't be serious. I am, yes. It does appear that whatever experimentations they've done to him, they've made his skeletal structure incredibly dense. And I'm sorry to say this, but he's currently being put in a medically induced coma until we have better understandings of what has happened to him. His body needs time to heal from the damage you've done to him. You've attempted to murder your teammate. Overseer Matthews. Him holding up his other hand with his palm out, expressing, no repercussions will be given to him under the circumstances. He's heard about the encounter, particularly from the other overseers, and first-hand reports of his brawl. Right now, they are to stay inside the vault. They will be debriefed, and the information from their pit boys has been uploaded to the servers. Until then, they are going to be given leave. And their request for a private residence has been approved. As for, well, this unique circumstance. Unique circumstance? Yes, Miss Winters. You and Izuku Midoriya were supposed to be married, but both of you two were selected. We do not know if it is possible, but we will be delaying certain other actions our vault has taken in the past. Good. Chloe interlocking her arm with Deku's. And the Overseer does get to turn his attention towards her, as Marcy does to put her hand on Deku's shoulder, and go to nod, expressing, circumstances are highly complex. Things on the surface got complicated, sir. The Overseers just staring at the three, and the insinuation that they're all trying to make seems to be quite obvious. One of them clearing their throat and expressing, well, the vault's parameters on everything were already going to need to be updated in an addendum, along with given out to people who are currently following them. As it does turn out, these addendums were created by the Enclave, and creating their own set of tenets would be necessary. Them going to understand. And the Overseer does then go to express. They can do more in-depth selections and examinations when they do get the chance. However, for right now, they are going to be given time off to deal with things. They will need to see medical professionals from the public sector for more in-depth medical examinations for a psych evaluation. That is mandatory. It is not optional. And everyone, they do get a nod. Going to leave. And Deku, he is taken aback by the idea that John survived what he did to him. I mean, his face was bad, but he's alive. Put in a coma? That's the best alternative for right now. They'll need to meet with the people from last year. He'll have to talk to the overseers when he gets his Pip-Boy back and let them know. But right now, they've got some time off. Them going to head down the hallway with each other. Before they do go to arrive at a new residence, the overseers, they're going to need to figure things out. It's going to be problematic and strange, but the three do to claim this room. It's currently not in use, and when they do to step inside, it's empty. It's got this strange hollowness to it. But with some time, it can be their home. It almost feels like they're back in Vault 21, back in that hotel. But when Deku does get to sit down on the couch after turning on the radio, he does just go to listen to music, trying to get his mind on straight, trying to think. I mean, they're back home. Their mission's completed. They've completed their objective. They've survived. But now what? Now what does he do? Him, currently, staring down and somewhat brooding. Chloe and Marcy, feeling similarly. Chloe does sit at the table in deep contemplation, while Marcy just wanders around the residence, trying to absorb the area and feel safe. She hasn't felt real safety in a long time. She hasn't felt this level of calmness in forever. Her anxiety isn't making itself known, it's not flaring up, but she does still feel trapped down here. There's no sky, there's no space, and she can't fly. There's no quick way out. And that does somewhat stress her out a little bit. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed and have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.